Welcome to this episode of Safe Home Podcast for struggling teens and their families finding their healing path. I am Beth Syverson, a mom of a 17-year-old son, Joey, who has been dealing with drug addiction, depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation for several years. I am walking beside him as he struggles with his recovery while I work on my own personal growth and healing.
And I am Jan Mabie, Beth's wife and Joey's other mom. The three of us been through many highs and lows, and we are committed to supporting each other.
Please note that this episode might contain some swear words, descriptions of drug use, and mentions of suicide attempts, and may not be appropriate for sensitive listeners or younger children.
We want to make sure everyone knows that this podcast is not glorifying or endorsing illegal activity or substance abuse. This podcast is for educational and harm reduction purposes.
So before we get into this episode about stimulants with my wife, Jan, I thought we would just update you guys with Joey's status. The last you heard from us together, we were talking about his relapse that had just happened that day. It's been about a week and a half. And Jan, how are we doing?
Well, he's reaching out. And so I think it's kind of a sigh of relief every time that you hear him. It's like, okay, he's still alive, and he kind of gets us a little bit of update of what's going on. So that's just kind of where we are. I mean, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Just sort of back into our mode. We have two modes. We have the Joey at our house mode and the Joey at his dad's mode. And he's been way more at his dad's over the last several years. So we just kind of flipped back into that. We just kind of do our life, or we have busy lives, and think about him all the time, worry all the time. But we just keep going. And I did have dinner with him tonight. He's actually doing pretty good. And he's in, the research mode. If you've ever dieted or tried to quit anything, you do research. You're like, maybe if I just do this over here, it'll be fine. I'll be able to handle everything. Or maybe if I just have this much, I'll be fine. So I think everyone can relate to that. And so he is excited to get back into the podcast. He has great hopes of getting on a safer and saner path very soon. And we all appreciate all of your support and your love during this time. So today we're going to talk about stimulants. And Joey never liked stimulants anyway. He was really much more interested in getting depressed and numbed out. So stimulants were never his drug of choice, but they were Jan's drug of choice when she was very young. Well, in the nicotine segment, we knew you smoked when you were in high school. How old were you when you started using stimulants? And you want to give us a little bit of background of why you chose those and that kind of thing?
Well, the very first time that I ever used anything, you're in high school and you're trying different things, and people come up with, and hand you things. The earliest stimulant I can remember were capsules, and they were black, and they were called Black Beauties. And, everybody talked about, these Black Beauties, they're so good. And I look back and I think, did they put anything in those? Because I don't recall the speed, the up, the stimulant, the move. It was like you took it, you just kept drinking and partying, and the next day you just were back to normal. So it was not until I got out of the Air Force before I actually got into stimulants. And it was actually methamphetamines that I used. We called it speed back then, or crystal, or meth, crystal meth. There was different names that we used for it.
Was Black Beauty?
Black Beauty was a pill, a capsule.
Was it meth or something else?
Nope. They called it speed. And I don't know, prescription speed, some sort. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We had little white crosses. They had those, which were a white pill. And I really don't think those did anything for me, to be honest with you. So it's like, looking back, I was just like, I don't know. You're a kid, you're trying anything. So I can only imagine what it's like today, because there's so many more things out there that are so much more dangerous than what we did.
I think it's much more dangerous now, but it was pretty dangerous back then too. You didn't know what you were getting.
No,
obviously.
no. And you never knew what to expect. You know, they would tell you, oh, here, this is this, you know, just, oh, okay.
And you were drinking on top of it, which is no bueno.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to drink and use drugs at the same time.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we used to, you know, drink quite a bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, so when I was in the military, it's not like I used drugs or speed or anything like that. There was an incident when I was overseas where we did smoke marijuana, and I had a real bad trip. It must have been real high THC levels, but at that time you didn't know anything about it. It was just like, oh my God. And so I thought, oh, I'll never do that again. So after I got out of the Air Force, I was around some friends, and we were talking and I kept falling asleep, and I was the only one falling asleep. And they were like, hey, you want to stay up with us? And I was like, no, I don't want to do any drugs. And so I would say we're probably 3 or 4 days into it, you know, I'd wake up and they'd still be awake, you know, and then maybe they were dozing, and I don't know, I'd wake up and, you know, everybody was awake. So they went ahead and they were like, no, just try this. And so what they did was they put out a line for me. And what that is they take the speed or meth, and they take a razor blade and they crush it up on a piece of glass, and they make a long skinny line, and you take a dollar bill or glass tube or something, and you snort it. And the first time I tried it, I was hooked.
Wow.
Immediately. I knew it.
Wow. That's
I knew it.
Pretty profound.
And I was up a good two days at least. At least 2 days.
Wow.
But the thing is that it didn't make me feel like where you drink, you know, and sometimes you don't know exactly where you are, or you can't control your body, or if you're, you know, smoking pot, you're kind of, you know, elusive in another realm or something. But with the speed, I never felt like that. I just felt like I was aware of everything, and I was doing everything faster, and I was more efficient, and I didn't need the sleep.
So you just were more of everything.
Yeah, I was fast. And so I always had a job. So I thought for sure I was not hooked, because I was working. I wasn't making very good money. You know, I was just working. I started in 1983, right after I got out of the Air Force. I got kicked out of the Air Force in October 1983.
Do you want to tell everyone why you got kicked out?
When I was in the Air Force, there was no gays were allowed. There was no don't ask, don't tell. There was nothing. It was just a flat. The rules in the military, they called it the Military Code of Justice, was that sex was to be performed missionary style between a man and a woman, and that was it. Any other thing you could be kicked out for.
Whoa.
And so I had typed up a letter, sent it to a friend of mine talking about one of my girlfriends. And unbeknownst to me, it was turned into the Office of Special Investigations. They called me in, and after a 3-hour interrogation on a typed letter, they finally got me to say, yes, I am gay, and I was getting kicked out. So I was one of the lucky ones, though. They wanted to kick me out with other than honorable, and I stood up for myself. I don't know what it was. Something just told me stand up, and I got an honorable discharge. And so thank God for that, because I've been able to keep all of my benefits. I didn't lose any benefits due to that. But it really tore me down. I was a law enforcement canine handler when I was in the military, and I was told, when you get out, there's no discrimination on the outside. You can go get a job anywhere. You can be a cop anywhere. Little did I know that wasn't true. So when I found out I couldn't get on the local police departments and stuff like that, it kind of really took a toll on me.
And you couldn't because they saw the reason for your discharge.
Because my discharge was flagged. Even though I got an honorable, they called it a 3910, which is failure to adapt to military lifestyle. And then at the bottom, it says homosexuality acts. even though it was a typewritten letter. There was no act involved. And so that's how it was flagged.
It sucks so bad. So you got kicked out, you got honor roll, but still you lost your job and your career in the military that you loved so much, training the dogs. And so then you tried to get work in the sheriff's department and police departments, and they wouldn't hire you because they would see that note.
Right. So I can remember in Redlands PD, I went to Redlands PD and I had passed the written test. And then when I went in for the oral interview, they asked to see my discharge papers and any evidence I had of my experience. And I can remember it was like about 4 or 5 people in the room, and they would pick up my papers and look down at it and then kind of point down to the bottom and hand it to the next person. And I knew exactly what it was. So I was just like, oh, didn't get that job.
Shoot. Did all that experience make you more susceptible to using speed, or did that have anything to do with the other?
You know, I kind of think it did. I was at a low point and not sure what I was going to do, where I was going. I having a hard time getting a job, and it was readily available. So, you know, like I said, once that I tried it, I was hooked immediately.
How much did it cost?
I don't think I paid a whole lot at first. I think that at first it was kind of like, here, you know, and that's kind of how they lure you in. Mm-hmm. Here, have some of mine. Mm-hmm. And then after a couple of times, it's like, okay, so this is $25 a bag. And then this is $50. And then this is $250. And next thing you know, you've got a pretty big addiction going on. And I would spend any money that I had that was not for rent or, you know, anything. I didn't have a car payment. Thank God. I had my car was paid for, but any extra money I had that, you know, I was spending it on that. And I wasn't buying food because you don't get hungry when you're on stimulants.
Yeah. Aren't they sometimes prescribed for weight loss, or they used to be?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
So it just makes you not hungry, like no time. Mm-hmm. Don't even want to think about food right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm 5'8", and I was, I went in the military at 113, which I was a little underweight. And then once I got into shape, gained weight and got all my muscles from running and exercising, I got up to 134. And then when I got out, I was about 128. And once I got on the speed, I dropped down to 99.
Whoa, you must have been skin and bones.
So
that's kind of the look, though, of someone that's using speed, really skinny, kind of with a like drawn face, like like circles under your eyes. That's kind of the kind of look.
I don't know. I didn't pay any attention to see if I had circles under my eyes. I just kept thinking how fat I was, you know.
Oh, you felt fat even though you were thin? Wow. Mm-hmm. So. Yikes. And were there any other stimulants you used?
I did meth, and then I did cocaine.
So that's also a stimulant in the same class.
Yeah. The difference with the cocaine was cocaine had a numbing effect. And it was funny. The person that actually turned me on to cocaine was a college professor. He was he did science and stuff. So he was actually making his own coke.
Really? That
sounds
dangerous.
And so he would say, to tell how good it was, you would take your pinky and get it wet and dab it in the coke and then rub it on your gums. And if it made your gums numb, it was good. That's how you knew it was good.
Wow. Oh my God.
So yeah.
So did it numb you physically or emotionally?
No. No, you just, you numb that. And you would think that you had this higher intellect, that you could really talk deep and get into these conversations because you would be talking for a couple of days.
Yeah. So that kind of image in the media of people that are loud and they're just like, and talking about themselves, do you kind of get this grandiosity when you're using coke or speed?
Coke more so than speed. Yes. You kind of think that, a lot of stuff and that you're deep, and this, that, and the other. But what you don't realize is that you're talking faster. Mm-hmm. You're doing everything faster. And sometimes people don't understand you.
Mm.
And you don't realize it. You slur a little bit because you're just da, 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 you know. And sometimes your words will run into each other, and you just. Da. But I found that while I was using, I couldn't remember a lot of things. So after I got off of all the drugs and everything, you know, little by little, I started remembering all kinds of stuff. And then it was kind of like I could see something once or twice and not forget it, just remember things. It was just kind of like, wow, you know, because I used to be like that as a kid.
Mhm.
As a young kid, I remembered everything. And
So is that a
so
side effect of stimulants? You
I don't
can't
know.
concentrate or you can't focus?
It must have been for me.
Oh.
You know, that was just my personal experience.
Mm.
I started in 1983, the end of 1983, almost the beginning of 84. It was kind of right, you know, right at the end. The last time I used was in March of 1987.
Oh, so you used for quite a while there.
Mhm.
And what made you quit?
Well, I was losing friends pretty fast. It seemed like everybody wanted to control me. And so I kind of would go through anger spurts where it was like, I don't want to be controlled. And why are you making me mad? You know, why are you doing this to me? And so people would tell me, Jan, you have a problem. You need to get off of it. And I was like, no, you have a problem. And so finally what happened was I ended up, you know, I had rented a house. My girlfriend left me and she left her daughter with me, who was a teenager in junior high.
Oh my God.
And so I was taking her to junior high school, and they were like, nope, don't want to be around you. You need to quit. You have a problem. And so it was like, okay, I've got to get myself together. You know, I've got this teenager here and we're eating, you know, hamburger helper every night, you know, because I don't know how to cook. And so I made a decision I was going to give it up. And first I called everybody. Hey, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. You know, there's this number in the phone book. I'm going to call NA and I'm going to get off. And they all kind of laughed at me. Yeah, right, Jan. Yeah, right. And so I called and I talked to somebody and they were like, there's a meeting. It's down at this bank. It's a Tuesday night women's meeting. You know, why don't you go down there? So I was like, okay. So I got there a little bit early. And so I had a little truck. I sat in my truck and I had a little bit of speed left. And I used all of it. I thought, that's it. Get rid of it. Use it all. I don't have any more. Right.
Like the day before a diet, right?
Yes. But it wasn't a day before. It was minutes before I walked in.
Oh, geez. Oh, yeah. Right before you went into the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Your last minute.
Yes. So I did. I went inside the meeting, and when I was listening to their stories and how the NA program worked, I was just like, whoa.
NA, Narcotics Anonymous. Right?
Narcotics
and
Anonymous.
that's for anyone on any sort of drugs, right?
Exactly.
It's not just speed. Okay. So people are all supporting each other getting off of drugs.
Yes. And, you know, and at the end, everybody puts their dollar in, you know, to help support, you know, their rent or whatever it was. And they were like, you don't have to pay any money. And I'm thinking, I don't have any money. I spent it all, you know.
You just snorted it up your nose.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I went home and I called everybody. That's it. I quit. You know, again, they're still laughing at me. And I had talked to the women that were in the group and I said, okay, so is this is next week at the same time? And they said, yeah. I said, okay, I'll see you guys next week. And I left. So the whole week, I didn't go anywhere other than to work. And so the next Tuesday, I show up at that meeting and we're all talking and they're like, oh, great, see you. I was like, oh, yeah, everything's going great, you know. So see you guys next week. The third week I walk in and finally they start asking me, what other meetings are you going to? And I must have had this shocked look, like ghost white look on my face of, there's other meetings? And they were like, you're not going to any other meetings? I was like, no. And they said, you're supposed to do one meeting per day for the first 90 days. And I had no idea they had that many meetings. I had no idea.
Well, you couldn't Google it back then either. So how would they? They should have given you a schedule or something on your first day, wouldn't you
Yeah,
think?
they didn't give me anything.
Nothing.
Nothing.
So did you start going every day, or did you just continue your once a week?
No. I think I did like 3 or 4 meetings a week. I don't think I went every day. Maybe I went like 5 or 6. I don't think I went every single day. But I do remember, okay, so Tuesday was women's, and then because I didn't even think how did the men get sober, because it's just women.
Oh yeah.
And then Thursday night they talked about the big meeting because that's where everybody went on the Thursday night meeting, and then Saturday and Sunday, and so I probably went about 6 times a week, but it took me almost 6 months before I even got a sponsor. And when I would ask people to be my sponsor, they'd be like, oh, we already have so many people, we can't take another one. And it's just like, okay, and I would just walk away. Finally someone was like, okay, you have to have a sponsor.
So did you find a sponsor?
Oh, I did. But it was funny because she was my first sponsor and I was her first sponsoree.
Oh, so you guys didn't know what you were doing.
No. And she was a recovering heroin addict.
Oh, okay.
And
whole different thing.
Whole different thing. So yeah.
Well, we're just all struggling together, right?
Right.
The blind leading the blind.
Exactly. But it was very, very helpful. And it got me to be strong enough to walk away.
Okay, good.
You know.
Okay, so you know how Joey uses depressants and he wants to numb out. What made it feel better for you to be totally like the volume turned up instead of down with the stimulants?
Well, even as a little kid, I always wanted to be the last one awake. I wanted to see what was going on, right? I wouldn't go to bed until everybody went to sleep. And then I was always the last one awake. But I just had to be the one nosy one knowing what was going on. And that's the only thing I can relate it to is I want to know what's going on. I don't want to sleep. I want to see everything.
Okay.
You know.
Maybe from your law enforcement training, just the vigilance. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
No, I don't know. But I liked the being up, being awake, being alert, moving all the time.
So those 4 years that you were able to keep a job and everything, but you didn't really grow personally. You kind of were just on hold and a kind of a low wage job, just kind of making do, right?
Yeah. So exactly. So I was making a little bit more than minimum wage, but not much. I wasn't doing anything with my education at all. And it was just jobs that you didn't have to get drug tested for. You would just go in with a high school diploma, just a little bit of a knowledge. In high school, I did offset printing. And so that's what I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do. So that's what I did. It was offset printing. But then, offset printing is a dying trade. So everybody turned to copy machines. So you ended up with high-speed copy machines and stuff like that. But, I did use a little bit of press. I was using, single color, dual color, and just the small little offset presses. And it just doesn't pay. It's just non-paying jobs, really.
Yeah. So after you quit, then is that when you started going to electrical school and all that? Did your life kind of take a nice turn for the better after that? Or was it?
It took quite a bit. Now in 1987, what I ended up doing was I switched printing to a private printing company where I was printing a gay magazine and still not making much money. And then I had a second full-time job. So 2 full-time jobs, and I worked 7 days a week. And the other one was I was in an office of a security alarm company as a dispatcher. So I would have 4 days where I would have one job and
Wow.
then 3 days work, 2 full-time jobs. But minimum wage, minimum wage, minimum wage.
Mm.
And if you're not careful and you have 2 full-time jobs, they don't take enough money out when they realize you have another job. And
Oh,
so
you
it's
get
like,
slammed at
yeah,
tax
so you
time.
get slammed at tax time too. And you can't move anywhere because all you're doing is working.
Yeah, it's kind of that trap that a lot of people at that income level get into. You you have to have money to make money, kind of. and
Exactly.
and so
Exactly.
you're, you know, just getting off drugs and trying to make your life better and just struggling and struggling and trying to do the thing, working 2 jobs, and it's still really, really hard.
Right.
Man, that must
Right.
have been a tough time of your life because you're like, listen, I've been through the hell here.
Right.
I've gotten rid of nicotine. I got rid of speed. I got rid of cocaine.
Mhm.
You probably weren't drinking anymore either.
I actually kind of quit
Social.
drinking when I was 21, and it wasn't a great while I'd have a drink, but it would make me sleepy. So I
Oh
never
yeah,
really,
so not your favorite.
yeah, not my favorite.
So it took a while for life
Mhm.
to really turn for the better.
Yeah, it was 1990 when I got a job at the hospital, and I was a printer at the hospital, and they had a printing press, and I operated that for about a year, and they said, "Oh no, we're going to get rid of that. Now it's a high-speed copy machine." And so it kind of like stunted my pay. Now I was able to go to that job and get rid of 2 jobs,
Hmm.
because I made $9.25 an hour. I'll never forget that when they hired me. Um, and I worked there for 5 years. And there were years where I would just get a bonus, years that I would get a little bit of a raise. And then another year, I remember one year my bonus was $10 and I handed it back.
Oh wow,
For a
you're
whole
like,
year, they gave me
this is
$10 and I
insulting.
went, bink. And, what are they going to do? But anyway, in 5 years, my raise was 25 cents from the beginning to the
Oh,
end.
that's terrible.
But I was there at the hospital when someone said, my husband's trying to get my son into the electrical school because he wants him to be an electrician. It's really good pay. And I said, oh, my sister does that. You should get into it. Next thing you know, there I go.
There you go.
I tried out. Yeah. So I
And that
became an
job, they
electrician.
test for drugs, I would imagine.
Well, yeah, but they did at the hospital too. So I
Oh,
had
okay.
5 years at the
Oh,
hospital.
so at that point, you didn't not mind anyway.
Yeah, it didn't bother me.
Now let's talk about another stimulant that many, many, many people use, and that is caffeine. It's
Mhm.
the same in the same class as
Mhm.
meth. It's just a lot milder and very socially acceptable. I know at various points in your life you've been variously addicted to caffeine.
Oh yeah, I used to drink a lot of soda, a lot of Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb, and that kind of stuff. And then coffee, coffee, coffee. I got totally off of it. And then what has it been? About a year now, I've been drinking tea.
Hmm.
I didn't think that the tea I drank had caffeine, but I guess it does. But and it'd probably be good for me to get off of it again. The thing with the caffeine is, you think that by drinking more, it's going to you're going to stay awake. But then people find out that, you know what, they have a cup of coffee and go to bed.
I used to do that. I used to be hooked on Diet Coke. I drink 6 cans a day, one first thing in the morning, and then right before I thought I couldn't sleep without having it. Like, was I thinking about that? It's supposed to keep you awake. Why would I take it before bed? But you just get used to it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, that
Right.
stuff is man, caffeine is really, really hard to get off.
Mhm.
And there's that new Michael Pollan book where he talks about caffeine as one of the plant medicines that we use. I can't remember what the other ones are, but it's very interesting. If you think about this substance that most of the population is hooked on, is completely socially acceptable, but it has quite a bit of side effects. You get jumpy, you get addicted to it, so you have to have more. You're like always, okay, where's the coffee machine?
Right.
Where's the vending machine? Where can I get my next dose of caffeine?
Starbucks has a very long
Star.
line.
Yeah, it's a real
Yeah.
thing. And just think of all the money they make off of it and all that. But it's a stimulant just like the other ones, just not as potent, I suppose.
I mean, we used to use chocolate and sugar as stimulants as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. The food is definitely can be a drug, for sure. Everything you put in your body in one way or another affects your system
Mhm.
one way or another.
I
So
remember when I first turned out as a journeyman, I was working at Disneyland at the downtown Disney, or across from the California Adventure when that was first being built. And we were working 14-hour days. And so here we were working one night, and it's getting late and everything. And one of the guys is like, boy, everybody's moving slower and slower. You can just see people you're just exhausted because you're just trying to get everything done. And he runs down to the store and he comes back with this giant bag of candy and soda, and it's Gatorade and and all this kind of stuff, and Mountain Dew. I never forget it, Mountain Dew. And he's like, here, everybody, I got you something. And all of a sudden, boom, we all started pulling wire. And it was like, next thing you know, the job is like, okay, we're done.
oh, humans are so funny.
Just that little rush.
I also wanted to mention in this episode that I believe that kids that get diagnosed with ADHD are often given amphetamines, which are part of this whole stimulant class. And if you have ADHD, stimulants actually slow you down. They do the opposite. We used to think Joy had ADHD. I'm not sure if he does, but he used to slow down with caffeine. If he was really, really like a tornado, we would give him Coke and he would calm down.
Coke?
Coca-Cola.
Okay. Sorry.
I think it used to be cocaine in Coca-Cola. No?
That way
Long
back.
time ago.
Way
Well,
back.
anyway, so ADHD, you get Ritalin or whatever the medicines are, Adderall. And I believe the kids, they hoard it or they sell it or they ask for more, but they won't end up using it and sell it off. Or that's something for parents and teachers and people to watch out for, because it's a stimulant just like meth,
Right.
and it's prescribed for people to help them with ADHD.
Yeah, I had one of my nephews. He has hyperactivity, bad, and he got kicked out of kindergarten. He was so
that's
hyper.
hard to do.
And so I can remember my sister saying, "I feel so bad for him," because they gave him speed prescription. And he would just sit on the couch and just glazed over, with his eyes. And, and she's like, I feel bad.
Oh, no. That's so sad.
It was like that, or just let him go run around.
He needed one of those hippie schools where they don't care if you run around.
Right. Yeah, not in the 60s.
Sit down and fold your hands kind of school. Oh, darn. Well, do you have anything else you wanted to say about stimulants, especially for kids? We actually don't know all that much about what kids are using right now. If anyone wants to help us out, we'd be happy to interview another person that's more familiar with what's happening right now. But I'm sure kids are still using it. I'm going to guess that kids who are super stressed and trying to do athletics and ballet and honors classes and this and that, I would guess that they would be the kids that were reaching out for stimulants just to be able to get everything done that they're being asked to do. So just to watch out. What is the danger of using these substances?
You can literally have a heart attack. It races everything in your body. Everything races. So, but
is there sometimes where you just totally feel out of control, like a race car that's like, and you can't control yourself?
I don't remember feeling like that. I remember thinking that I can't be an addict because I can still think. I still know what's happening and I still have a job, and I would reason with myself, that, everything was fine. Everything was fine. But, the thing is that, with stimulants, there's so many different ways of taking it. Like I said, I used to snort it. There was different, we'd crunch it up and have lines of it. And so that was the common way of taking it. Some people smoked it. Some people would just swallow it. Oh my God, the most bitter taste, I will tell you.
Really? Ew,
It's right now I can taste it. I have not had it since 1987.
wow.
That's how bad it was. And other people have injected it,
Wow.
you know, and it's like, I could never do needles. I was just like, no, 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 no. So I do know that there's a lot of different ways that people do take it. It's not just, you know, not just snorting it. And what you'll find is a lot of times people that do snort it, they'll wipe their nose a lot or they'll sniff a lot, you know? And then what we would do, because we were what they call poor, you know, meth users, poor speed users, we would go down and get the little Vicks inhalers because they were less than $1 or something. And, you know, if you didn't have any, you would use that and it would kind of just like bring up whatever was left in your nostril and you would kind of get another rush again.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
You really
So,
needed some more
money.
stimulation and money. Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, no.
Well, I'm
So,
glad you're off of all that now. And, you
yeah.
know, a tea once a day, that's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a long way since 1987, huh?
Comparatively, definitely.
So,
Well, I'm glad you stayed safe with all that. And look in the episode notes for some resources, everyone. And please share this episode and our podcast with anyone you think that it would help. And don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And thank you very much for your support. And
stay safe.